Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Ghost Creatures and Scares Oh My. This episode is called Haunted Paintings.
In this podcast, we take the entity featured in each episode of the popular show Supernatural and explore creepy real life stories, myths, and legends that surround the theme.
This week we're looking at episode 19 of season 1 of Supernatural called Provenance. A young couple is murdered in their home shortly after buying an antique painting of a family portrait circa 1910. Upon reviewing the painting's provenance, Sam and Dean learn that everyone who has ever bought the painting has been murdered and race to discover how the portrait is causing deaths before it can claim its next victim.
So, thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, it's one of my favourite episodes. This it's always part of me rewatching. As I'm saying that, I've realised that I must have missed it off me rewatch from this Halloween. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch that tomorrow. I think.
Yeah, it's one of the top episodes, I think. I think for me, I love Supernatural, not a super fan like you. When Supernatural get it right, you feel like you could be watching any horror film because the storyline is strong on its own without the actual background of Sam and Dean. It's just like obviously they bring it alive, but this could be a horror this could be a cheesy horror film in its own right, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. I feel like the episode. I think there's probably two types of episodes, and one sort of you've got like the go and discover a new type of
Yeah.
monster or whatever
Hmm.
ghoul, and then you have the episodes which is sort of mainly part of the main storyline that sort of follows it, and this is one of the monster hunting
It
episodes.
is, and this is where I find the episodes that we record in our research are more enjoyable for me. We're coming towards the end of season one, aren't we? And like you say, the end couple of episodes in Supernatural season one goes back to that, the ultimate search for the father and finding this demon that killed the mom. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah,
So we've had to come up with some different ideas for that. But for this one, it was really clear what we're going to focus on. And as well, I love a cheesy twist, and there is a good twist in this one.
yeah.
Yeah, isn't
No,
there?
it
I'm not.
definitely
I'm
is.
not. Even though I keep saying we don't really do spoiler alerts because it's been around for years and years. If you are listening to this and think, oh well, actually, I'm listening because I like creepy stories, but I don't really know Supernatural that well, I wouldn't want to give it away because it's a bit of a it's a one of them twists. Like it's a bit like it's if you once you know the twist, you can't really unsee it,
Yeah,
kind of thing. Um. So yeah, it's been a nice week, hasn't it, for us? We've
yeah.
been It's October in the house
Festive
officially.
time
Well, not
has
just in the
arrived.
house. It's January everywhere else, but I know it's October, so we've got decorations on the
Yeah.
go.
Halloween decorations are up.
Yeah, our little girl kind of maybe knows a little bit more about what's going on this year.
Yeah.
So as we're sitting recording this now, we're surrounded by pumpkins and skeletons and cheap clutter, but it's we love it. And we're going to be on. We like to watch certain films, don't we, around this time of
The
year?
list.
We've got a list that we go to. We always kick it off with Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
Then
Halloween and then into Christmas.
we do standard horrors, and then we do a little bit of I think sometimes we prefer the family friendly ones to get us in the mood. I watched Edward Scissorhands the other day.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice is a big one for me. You're not so much for you.
Nah, not a massive fan.
And then Hocus Pocus and that kind of thing. So yeah, we are really, as we dive into this episode, in the mood for a spooky story. I am anyway. Are you?
Definitely.
So, today, what I thought would make sense because the episode itself features and revolves around a painting that is haunted. We'll focus on haunted paintings. That would
Makes
make sense,
sense.
wouldn't it? Yeah, I don't know why. It's a bit left field, but so today we've got a few tales of haunted paintings for you, and they are very creepy. We'll start with a story that we've covered a few episodes back. So this is why I'm going to keep this really brief because we have actually covered this one, but I thought, well, it really kicks us off with the idea of haunted paintings, and it'd be silly not to. Um, and I'm thinking as well, like cheesy horror films as well. It reminds me of, the idea of these paintings on a wall with the eyes moving.
Follow
It's
you.
yeah, the haunted mansion type. It's a bit of a trope, isn't it? But it's
It's
a
always
good
in
one.
Scooby Doo.
Scooby Doo's always got someone eyes following you around the room. So you'll probably remember this one. It's based at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Titanic artifact experience has many models of ship life and even some relics from the doomed vessel itself. So this is the Halloween. No, it's not. It's the Titanic Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hmm.
Do you remember we covered this one? I think it would have been episode three when we talked about ghosts in the water, probably.
Probably, yeah.
I'm 99% sure. I'll have to check that one. But So you might know what I'm talking about already. It's an interesting tale about the photo of Bruce Ismay, whose portrait fell off the wall one night after closing. So Bruce Ismay was one of the Titanic's builders and top men who pushed the Titanic project forward. In an infamous interaction right before the terrible accident occurred, Ismay is said to have told a passenger that the ship would be speeding up rather than slowing down after the ship received an ice warning. So there was an iceberg warning, and I think it's true, isn't it? Because on the film you see this, the captain's a bit nervy about it, and
Yeah.
Ismay, who has a lot of like pull with the captain, he's got a lot of power. He's the one who turns around and says, "Oh no, we're not slowing down, we're speeding up. We've got to hit them headlines." And ironically, they hit every headline in the world because of that decision. So a lot, as you can imagine, there's a lot of hatred towards Bruce Ismay and anger from families of people who passed away.
Yeah.
He's the one on the film, and I always forget what the actor because he's a really well-known English actor who played him because he's in the Mummy as well. Um, which one he's in the Mummy?
Is he the dad in Jumanji as well? The
Yes.
original
Oh my
Jumanji,
gosh,
with
yes
Robin
he
Williams.
is. Yes, he is, isn't he? Yeah, I've got his name. I really like him actually. He's one of them actors who is he alive?
I've got no idea.
So,
I hope
because
so as well.
I really like him. Like, you haven't seen him in things for a while. Yeah. So Ismay was one of the main faces in the press concerning the tragedy when he returned to land. So he was one on the film. It follows real life where he jumped the lifeboat. He was like, "I'm getting on. Probably a class thing. I'm better than these people."
Mhm.
Where a lot of men, even rich men, a lot of rich men put the women and children way before. So you can imagine why there would be a lot of bad energy around this painting. But anyway, to sum this up, because we have covered this one before, it basically what was happening is there's surveillance videos where staff can see the picture sliding down off the wall rather than just falling off. There's no wind that's knocked it, no one's bumped it as they're cleaning or something like that, and it actually slides off a couple of inches across the floor. Other visitors have heard footsteps and disembodied voices around the painting, and there's even been a sighting of an old lady wearing clothing that would have been typical of the time period. So is the idea basically is that the spirits who are connected to some of the artifacts from the ship hate Ismay so much that they are taking revenge on his portrait because
Like
he
the
survived
floor
and
and
they
stuff.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of would make sense, really.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So thoughts on paintings being haunted, I suppose the idea of ghosts themselves before we launch into two stories.
So, probably just again, got to keep an open mind to it, haven't you? So haunting paintings, like similar to ghosts,
Yeah, so
potential.
there is potential for it. The creepy aren't they? But we went. I was telling my sister the today that we were doing this episode, and she said, "Oh, are you going to mention the picture from Croatia?"
Oh yeah,
So we
I feel it's always like old paintings.
yeah,
Like it's always old paintings that just look creepy.
they do, don't they? Is it
Uh,
because they're wearing old-fashioned clothes, or is it because they've been dead for so long?
or maybe it's just more like the way that they're always sort of sat to have the picture of them drawn,
Mm,
so that it's always like constantly like the eyes will always follow you because obviously
yeah,
that's the
that's a
way that
good
they're painted
point.
is that like
Yeah.
no matter where you look, the eyes look as if they're following you.
Is it because they're not smiling?
Yeah, maybe.
Or if it's like a ingenuous smile. Whereas if you see,
Creepy.
yeah, I don't think in 100 years' time, if people see pictures of us posting selfies with our tongue sticking out, they'd be that threatened by it.
I don't think they would for some reason.
No, I don't either. But yeah, so anyway, we stayed in a beautiful villa. We went to Zadar, didn't we, in Croatia?
Yeah.
First kind of holiday we've done as a big family, and it was great. But there was this really unsettling picture, and I put it on Instagram a few weeks ago on the wall of just this random guy, and it's funny because and my sister's boyfriend, so he was like, I'm sure the eyes were facing a different way the night before, and he's adamant that they moved. But yeah, so going to a cursed painting, you'll remember this story, Matty, because I'm sure we watched a really good documentary about this not long ago, and this is where I kind of got the idea to go with this one
Yeah.
from. So in 2014, a long forgotten ship was found in the Arctic. The Erebus had been captained by Sir John Franklin, who was a British naval officer in the 1840s, and the ship had become trapped during an expedition. Sadly, most of the crew had starved, and the ship remained in its icy grave for almost 2 centuries. However, a painting related to its mysterious demise has been hanging in one university, haunting exam students for decades. Man Proposes, God Disposes is an 1864 oil on canvas painting by Edwin Landseer. The work was inspired by the search for Franklin's lost expedition. So this painting was painted even in 1864. And this ship was just missing until 2014, which I think's quite amazing actually.
Yeah.
They've been looking for it for that long. So the painting is in the collection of Royal Holloway, University of London, and it's a subject of superstitious urban myths that the painting is actually haunted. The polar bears made me do it.
It's the polar bears. They said if I don't do it, they were going to get us.
It sounds like something like Bart Simpson would write on the
Ah,
chalkboard.
there's that at the beginning of the episode.
But
The polar bears did not make me do it.
they ate my homework. Are the eeriest words to emerge from the urban legend of Edwin Landseer's painting. It's a grisly depiction of two polar bears hanging at Royal Holloway in the University of London. Since the first exams were taken there in the 1920s and the 1930s, it's been a painting associated with failure. If you sit directly in front of it in an exam, you will fail, unless it's covered up, goes the myth, according to the college's curator, Dr. Laura McCulloch. So,
Well,
thoughts?
you'd be fighting and not sit in front of it, wouldn't you? Even if you didn't believe it, you just in case, I'd be going, well, I'm not sitting in front of that.
Do
I'll take it. I'll take the test on a different day.
100%. It's a bit, but the thing is, what makes me laugh about this is all the students who are taking exams in this particular part of the university. I think I'm right in saying are art students.
Hmm.
You wouldn't get that with math students, would you?
I
They wouldn't stand that nonsense.
know. I'd
It,
take the painting down, to be fair.
yeah, well, they just would be like,
Oh,
they wouldn't be bothered. I think it's a certain kind of person who would be more suggestible to this, maybe
what are
like
you saying about art students?
no, I'd be with them. Like, no, no shade intended. Like it's more like maybe I don't know, open-minded, like floaty people. You know what I mean? I'm getting a look there.
Ah,
If you're an
yeah.
art student, I've got nothing but I'd rather be an art student than a math student.
What about the problem with my math students? Digging yourself a hole
The
here,
two
Amy.
square.
Uh, should be ashamed of yourself for
Sorry. Um, I'm really proud of that one.
that.
The painting of two polar bears devouring a ship's remains, as well as the humans on board, was inspired by the mysterious disappearance of Sir John Franklin, who led two ships and 129 men to their doom in 1845, trying to chart the Northwest Passage in the Canadian Arctic. The macabre spectacle is probably enough to distract even the most conscientious student, but bad luck rumours started almost immediately. There's an obvious connection to failure, says McCulloch. I'm going to fail my exam just like they failed to find the Northwest Passage, one might conclude, and then I'll get eaten by a polar bear. It's a bit of I get the first
Ah,
part of
yeah.
that. Um,
Proper extreme, isn't it?
yeah, just a little bit extreme that one. But anyway, in the 1970s, fear of this curse had reached fever pitch. So this is a bit like mass hysteria, a little bit. I suppose it is actually. It's mass hysteria of college students.
Yeah, I all believing that a painting's gonna kill them.
A student point blank refused to be seated near it. The poor registrar, who just wanted to get this exam underway, ran off and tried to find the biggest thing that she could find to cover the picture. It turned out to be a massive Union Jack flag, and ever since, the same flag has adorned the painting every year during exams. I think people are very superstitious when it comes to exams. Even when I was doing exams, people would take in Lucky Charms and things like
Yeah,
little
fair enough,
bears
really,
and
isn't it? I can
things.
understand that.
Yeah, yeah, of
Nerves
course.
get you during exams,
If you know
so
that it's going to fluke, you're going to be concentrating on it. Even if you're a really, really skeptical person, I would be just thinking, "Oh my God, that polar bear's looking at
oh,
us." Do you know what I
I've
mean?
already failed.
Yeah, it's a bit so it's become a tradition to have this the flag just stays over it now during exams. I don't know if they take it off. They must do.
I've got to, surely.
Yeah,
What's
maybe
the
it's
point in
just
having the painting there? If that's the case,
yeah,
you just
that
take it down.
be a bit disrespectful, wouldn't it?
The polar bears get them.
But as that tradition verges on 4 decades, the urban myth itself has diverged. Recent graduate Michaela Jones was told that a student during the exam had stared directly into one of the polar bear's eyes. Trans-like, the student had then gone mad and killed herself, although not before etching the words, "The polar bears made me do it," onto her exam paper or his paper. I've heard it was a girl, I've heard it was a boy, I've heard about 3 different ways that they killed themselves, says McCulloch. Of course, the incident didn't happen. No evidence exists to the contrary in the university's archives. So this has been taken as because it's like life of its own. It's an
Ah,
urban legend, isn't it?
it's over.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. And
oh.
an urban legend, I
They're all
suppose.
starting to mix together now,
Hmm.
aren't they? All starting to flow into one.
I suppose it does. It takes on a mind of its own, I suppose. So, nevertheless, students are obviously quite superstitious, even, says Jones. If you speak to anyone at the uni, there's a consensus that it's true. And although she acknowledges it may be a myth, she definitely wouldn't want to sit an exam without the comfort of the covering flag, which
Believe like fair
I can
enough.
totally
Yeah,
relate
fair
and
enough.
understand. It does relieve people's fears a bit, she says. Luckily for the students at Royal Holloway, that tradition is there to stay for now, says McCulloch. Okay, so that's the first, well, the second story, I suppose. That we have got one last story coming up, which is the biggest one, and we're going to discuss that. But what do we think about this painting the polar bear?
Well, I mean, it's probably not real, but as like her, I would definitely not take the chance. If I had to sit a test in that room, I would definitely be covering it up. Even if I wasn't sitting directly in front of it, I'd probably want to cover it up.
Definitely. And on a scale of maybe five, super believable, zero is ridiculous. That story, what
One
do
or
you think?
two polar bears make
Yeah,
them do
I
it.
would. Yeah, that's it. I think it's definitely it's got into people's heads,
Yeah,
but it's become a bit of a silly one, hasn't it?
one or two if you're going to say that you believe polar bears are coming out of
Yeah.
pain and making people kill themselves, and five on it actually affecting people's minds and
Hmm.
making them panic a little bit during tests.
What I will say about this one is I remember watching the documentary. Can you remember the artist himself, Edwin Landseer?
Yeah,
I'm probably saying that Landseer. Is that am I saying that correctly? When he painted this painting, I think he was in his early 30s, and he had struggled or like from his late 20s to early 30s with really bad mental health.
yeah.
That said it was schizophrenia and like real bad bouts of depression and anxiety. And he was drinking a lot to self-medicate because obviously in those days that was like something that they might potentially do without forms of counselling or medication. And I think he died, didn't he, quite young,
I think so.
potentially
Yeah.
committed suicide. So could you argue that there's two arguments to that? The painting has supernatural powers and in it when he was painting it something in that painting drove him insane, or the opposite, he's fueled
Trapped
all
his
of
energy.
he's put all of his depression and it's made this painting something quite dark.
I mean, the painting itself shows two polar bears ripping men apart, so I mean that's pretty dark.
That's what I'm saying. So
And it is.
has it driven him mad and there is something supernatural about it, or has he just funneled all of
I
this
reckon he's
bad
just
energy into
funneled
it?
his bad energy
I
into
think so, and it's become a
creating it.
really dark piece of artwork.
Yeah.
And especially for the times, maybe it was they weren't used to such. And then again, no, there are quite gruesome art pieces of artwork. I don't know for that one. I'm going to say two words that have just sprung to my head when I think of a painting driving you mad. Dorian Gray.
Oh yeah,
Good story that.
it's a good
Not so much
story.
a film.
Bit
The film's a little bit
off.
questionable,
Yeah.
but no, I love that story. The idea of this decrepit painting in the loft, going, you know what I mean, without taking on all your sins.
Yeah.
We had a few like about a good 10 years ago when we first met. Wasn't it your mum who bought us a canvas, which I
Aye.
thought was going to be like A4 or something, and it turned out to be.
Massive.
I can't even think there's not a like a small enough number because numbers go no numbers go. Hang on,
Go up. Well, it'd be
no
one.
no.
A1 would be bigger than A4.
It was bigger than A1. It was huge. It
I
was like
was
it
trying
was like
to.
the size of me. So we just left it, didn't we, in the garage,
Loft.
in the loft, and it was very much like I was scared to look at it in case. Every time I went up to get Christmas decorations, I was thought it was going to grow like wrinkles and all the bad
Closing
beats.
your eyes every time you went up.
Yeah. So, are you ready for our biggest story in the finale?
Yeah.
So, the crying boy painting. Have you heard anything about this one?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Can you guess?
I mean, a painting about a crying boy.
Fell way off. You have heard of this one because again, it's another one of these ones. I'm sure we watched a documentary about it.
Well, probably then.
We sound really boring.
Nothing boring about watching documentaries.
Mind, I was in the office today, and someone was talking about documentaries, and apparently there's a documentary about zombie sharks, and I just kept saying,
A documentary about zombie
yeah,
sharks.
what is that? Is that just a type of shark, like a killer shark,
I've
zombie
never heard
shark?
of a zombie shark, like.
Someone definitely said it, and I was thinking I've never heard of zombie
I'll have to
sharks. It
give that a
must be a
Google
real
afterwards.
thing. I don't like not like a zombie, but it must be. Is it like a name for a type of a breed of shark or
Maybe,
something?
I.
I don't know. I'm too busy watching it. Or documentaries, clearly. Okay, so I've taken this one from exemplar.com. So when I was a young child in the 1970s, I became fascinated by a painting in my grandmother's house. The painting itself was a cheap print of a well-known piece and was hung on the living room wall of her small terraced house. The reason I was so fascinated was that the picture depicted a young child. The boy was a similar age to me and for some reason looked sad and downcast, with tears brimming from his troubled eyes. I was so attached to the painting that I even gave the sad child a name. So I can remember similar kind of paintings to this. If you Google crying boy painting, you'll see it straight away, and it's a very you probably grandparents you'll probably will remember this from grandparents' house. So my grandma, she had paintings. She didn't have the crying boy, but she had similar ones, and there must have just been like a famous reprint at the time. You know how nowadays we kind of take the mick a bit, and people, you say it's a bit basic if you've got live, laugh, love on your wall.
Yeah.
That was the equivalent. Like everyone had this painting. It
Oh,
was
right.
really popular. So a few years after the painting went up on the wall, there was a devastating kitchen fire in the house. While the kitchen was completely destroyed, the rest of the house was undamaged. Despite this, the painting of the boy was removed and thrown into a skip along with the contents of the kitchen. For years after, it puzzled me why my grandmother did this until I read a series of articles about a cursed painting. That painting was The Crying Boy. The Crying Boy was one of a series of paintings by artist Giovanni Bragolin, completed in the 1950s. The series depicted young, teary-eyed children. While it may seem strange to want an image of a weeping child on your wall, the pictures proved popular all over the world. In the UK alone, over 50,000 copies were sold. The children represented were often poor and very beautiful. One boy's image particularly tugs at the heartstrings. His eyes a sad reflection of his soul. He became known as the Crying Boy, and in total, Bragolin painted over 60 paintings, and up until the early 80s, prints and reprints of his images continued to be mass produced. So yeah, it was a really popular painting. It's a bit of a funny one though. Like, would you want a picture of a crying
No.
child? We've got a crying child in real life.
Now, why would you want a picture of one?
Tell you
Makes
what,
no
I want a
sense.
picture of a quiet house.
Yeah. Ooh,
A quiet house. Joke, a joke. In 1985, the most popular tabloid newspaper in the United Kingdom printed a story that caused panic and ended the popularity of Bregolin's work. So you can probably guess what paper this was.
son.
The Sun, yeah. The Sun's a bit, if you're not from the UK, it's a really kind of controversial one, isn't it? The Sun. It's what we call is it a red top? Don't they call them red tops, where it's more like kind of Daily Mirror and the
Got no
Sun.
idea.
It's not a serious one. I'm sure broadsheets like the Times. I'm sure red tops like because they're always red on there. I think.
Ah, it is right at the top.
Yeah. So it's banned in Liverpool.
Is it?
Oh, do you not know that?
No, no.
If you go to Liverpool, you won't get the Sun because they boycotted it because of Hillsborough.
No, right.
Because when Hillsborough happened, the Sun tried to shift the blame from the police onto the Liverpool fans. So it's banned in Liverpool.
Scumbags.
Yeah, it's bad. Uh-huh. So, the Sun basically published an article entitled Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy. The story described the terrible experience of May and Ron Hall after their Rotherham home was destroyed by a fire. The cause of the fire, much like my grandmother's, was a chip pan that overheated and had burst into flames. The fire spread rapidly and destroyed everything on the ground floor. Only one item remained intact, a print of the crying boy on their living room wall. Distraught at their loss, the devastated couple made the bizarre claim that the painting was cursed and it, not the chip pan, was the cause of the fire. Um, yeah, so I mean,
Yeah, it was the painting. Of course it was.
initial thoughts. So this has happened to this person's grandmother. They've read an article in the Sun about another couple it's happened to. So far, I'm thinking, well, that's just a coincidence. You've obviously both had chip pans. Chip pans aren't really used often now in the UK. I don't know about worldwide.
Yeah.
That's why we don't really have any kitchen fires now. Do you know? There was a big spate of kitchen fires because of,
All because of the chip pan.
yeah, chip pans and pressure cookers and cigarettes.
Obviously tabs.
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh.
It's a odd one for it to have been a chip pan with like from the hot water splashing.
Well, probably the grease, yeah. It's
I
called,
know,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe it was a fault. Maybe they weren't as high tech as they are
I
now.
suppose it's open top, aren't they? So obviously the stuff would splash out.
Yeah, so it was really, so I'm just thinking, so far, it hasn't really convinced me, this one,
No.
but it does get a little bit more hard to, what's the word, disprove.
Do tell.
So the tale would have disappeared into the archives of the strange and mysterious stories that peppered the Sun, except for one thing. A firefighter came out and they claimed that he had attended at least 15 house fires where everything was destroyed. Only thing, however, left completely undamaged in each home was the picture of the crying boy. Before long, the story gathered momentum, and a rash of fires all over the United Kingdom were blamed on the cursed child. In following articles, the Sun went on to claim. So we've got a list of incidents that happened here. So this firefighters come out and said they've been to 15 at least fires, and everything is completely damaged and scorched, but the picture itself remains
Maybe the
intact.
picture was just made really well.
Yeah, maybe it's what's it, fire
Fire,
retardant? Yeah, maybe. So anyway, a woman in Surrey lost her house to a fire 6 months after buying the painting. Two sisters in Kilburn had fires in their homes after buying a copy of the painting. One sister even claimed to have seen her painting sway backwards and forwards on the wall. Does things move, don't they, when fire hits? Like it might, if the wallpaper was peeling off because of the heat, it might,
yeah, it would
you
make
know
it
what I
move.
mean?
Yeah,
A concerned woman on the Isle of Wight attempted to burn her painting without success and then went on to suffer a run of bad luck. Ah, okay, she tried to burn her painting. It didn't burn, so you might be right here.
yeah.
Maybe there's something in it.
That just makes the thing, obviously, if that many people as well, like if that many people have that painting, truly, like, I mean, there could have been like 1,000 fires in houses that had this painting with it being so popular. Like, and
Exactly.
only like 15 of them have yet. Oh yeah, 15 of them have got this picture. But if it's a very popular painting, there could be all these other houses that never burned down.
You're disproving this story too quickly.
Continue with the
Yeah,
story.
no, no, it's because it's hot because I read this and my skeptical mind was even like, oh, maybe. But I tell you this, Matty, tell you this for nothing. Bet you wouldn't hang it on
I
your
wouldn't,
wall.
because I
So
wouldn't.
you're
Not
not that
stupid.
brave, are you?
I know, certainly not.
That's what I mean. So there is something to it. Maybe it's just superstition. If there's something there, I don't know. But I think you're right. I think
If it
deep
was like,
down,
if it was like this was happening, why would somebody? Why did this woman, who the one who took it down and tried to burn it?
yeah,
Why did she even get it in the first place?
because they've had them, and then these stories come out.
Right, and then the thing, well, I mean, she could have just chucked it away.
Yeah, maybe she thought I'd better destroy it. I don't know how people's minds were. A gentleman in Nottingham who possessed a print of the painting lost his home and his family were injured. And a pizza parlour in Norfolk was destroyed, including every painting on his wall except for the crying boy.
Or a pizza parlor where they're making loads of food or so, open fires.
Yeah, but at the same time, surely if they most paintings would be produced in the same way.
Maybe it was like covered in some
Hmm,
sort of thing. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. It's a bit
It is
funny,
a
this one,
coincidence,
isn't
like it
it?
is a
It's a bit
coincidence.
funny. This one got me a little bit like, like to the point where I would never, what, to the point, this is how much it's got me. I actually Googled it just to, like you're probably doing right now. I Googled the crying boy just to see a picture of it. And for a split second, I thought, oh, I've looked at it now.
That's got you.
Yeah, it's one, it's like a powerful kind of like scary one. Um, yeah, so thoughts on it?
I mean, it is odd that so many happened, but again, if it was very popular, I mean, why did none of them? If she couldn't get rid of it, why didn't she just go and buy loads of them and then just put them all over her house? And
What?
that way, if it went in a fire court, obviously it just wouldn't burn anything because the pictures all over. Go the opposite way, play mind games.
Yeah, maybe.
If that's how it works.
That's a good point. I think no one would have thought to do that. But well, when the Sun reported that even rational firefighters refused to have a copy of the crying boy in their homes, that's important. Firefighters, I don't want to make a sweeping generalization, but I'm about to, tend to be, especially in those days, very straight to the point.
Well, yeah, but we could have been superstitious. Like if you've been 15 fires in the last month, and each and every single one of them had this picture in the house. Like even like I say, like even though you wouldn't believe it, you might
Mhm.
in a bit of you be like, well, I'm obviously not going to get that picture, just in case.
Yeah, true, I suppose. So when they reported that even the most rational firefighters refused to have a copy of the crying boy in their homes, the reputation of the painting was, as you can imagine, damned forever. In all of these cases, and many more that were reported, the painting of the crying boy remained unharmed. Eventually, if there was an image of a crying child by an artist in any house that went on fire, the painting was blamed. So even if it wasn't the crying boy, but just a similar kind of style,
Yeah.
it was blamed on the crying boy painting. Some claimed that they experienced bad luck if they attempted to destroy or get rid of their paintings. Others were convinced that it was only a matter of time before disaster struck them. After printing more articles and scare stories, the Sun offered a frightened public a solution. On Halloween 1985, hundreds of the paintings were collected together by the newspaper and burned under the supervision, of the fire brigade. So what a publicity stunt this is
Aye.
for both the Sun and the guy. I mean, he might have passed away by this point. I don't know, Bergolin. But his family, his estate. I know it damaged the painting, but there's no such thing as bad news, I
I
think.
mean, loads of his pictures, paintings were bought up and burnt.
But they weren't originals; they were prints. Not saying
Yeah.
that doesn't matter, but a lot there'd be so many people who would have bought them because of the novelty of it.
Yeah, that is true.
For all the people who are destroying them, there'll be people who are like collectors. If they think of like Ed and Lorraine Warren types who might have bought one as like a
Test
cookie
it out.
a cookie kind of ornament. You know what I
Uh,
mean? So the curse itself, why would this seemingly innocent series of paintings be cursed? So any ideas where this came from? Why, if it is true, why is it cursed?
Something to do with the boy who was in the painting, maybe?
That's what they say. So before long, the speculation was rife. Theories range from the little boy being a gypsy child, or a traveller child, I should say, whose family placed a curse on the artist. Some claimed that the child had died in a fire himself, and his spirit was trapped in the painting, which is a bit like the supernatural episode, a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, the most enduring story claimed that the boy had accidentally set fire to the studio of the artist who had painted him, and the child's parents had also been killed in a blaze. Wherever the little orphan went, fires mysteriously followed, earning him the nickname Diablo or Devil. The boy supposedly survived to early adulthood, but was tragically killed when his car crashed and burst into flames. From then onwards, it was his image that carried on his cursed fascination with fire. So that he was a young traveller boy whose family had put a curse on the artist. He died in a fire himself, and his spirit is trapped in there, or he's actually a bit of a bad egg, and it's been an arsonist basically.
Yeah.
So there's no proof to this. There's no proof that he was even based on a real little boy. It could have been one of Bergolin's, a child he knew, or just a likeness of a child. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at the picture, it doesn't look like a. It's quite like a cherub. What's the word? Cherubic. That's right, isn't it? Cherubic,
Like,
like a little cherub. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? It's an actual lifelike picture of a real
Right.
person. So, in a bid to debunk the stories that grew up around the painting of the crying boy, various experts offered their own theories. A frustrated fire brigade pointed out that in all cases where there'd been fires, there was actually a rational explanation. The fires, almost in all cases, could be traced back to human carelessness or electrical faults. So that makes sense.
Hmm.
Pretty much all of them, not everyone, because you're always going to have the odd unexplainable fire. It was things like chip pans or, like I say, cigarettes,
Yeah.
candles, that kind of thing. What they couldn't explain, however, was the evidence that the paintings often remained intact when everything around them was destroyed. So this is what interests us because you've said, well, why? Why is that not burning? Is it just some kind of fire retardant paint or material?
Yeah.
Um, in 2010, in a video made by Steve Punt, available on YouTube, a painting of the crying boy is set alight in a bid to decide the matter once and for all. By the time the fire burns out, the corners of the painting is scorched, but it remains largely intact, and the face remains untouched. Yet the Sun, who first published the story of the crying boy, had no trouble incinerating hundreds of copies. Possibly the simplest of explanations is that the picture is printed onto fire retardant materials. Quite simply, the manufacturer of the print created a fire resistant product that became a victim of its own success. The debate continues.
That's pretty
Spot
close,
on,
man.
spot on.
Maybe the Sun, like, have just got all of these copies and they just said, oh, yeah, we burnt them, but they've actually got, like, a massive warehouse somewhere just full of the copies and they could
That's
never
it.
actually get rid of them.
I feel like in the 70s and the 80s, it was just such a popular thing. Like I've said, it's equivalent of having Live, Laugh, Love, or a picture, I don't know of what, a random print that everyone had.
Yeah.
And the chances of it's a lot of these fires were in working class homes, and it's a very working class picture to have on your wall, I think. And then chip pans were used a lot in working class homes, and the correlation's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people smoked back in those days,
Hmm.
and smoked in the house and had ashtrays lying around. So I think human, there's a rational story behind this one.
Yeah.
But like I say, would you chance
Definitely
it?
not. 0% chance I would even
No.
have it anywhere near the house. Just in
So
case.
just in case, I don't think we would. I think you could probably buy it, can't you? If you went, you've got to be to buy it.
Probably, I'd imagine so. If not,
So
copy somewhere.
thoughts on that's what you're gonna get for Christmas.
That's
The tree will burn down.
what we say, aye. We'll ruin Christmas.
Everything but that that painting. So the three stories we've covered today, I know the first one was quite short. Which one do you think is the most disturbing or creepy?
Um, well, I think obviously the one where loads of people's houses burned down for the last one. It's obviously not a very good thing, but again, like, probably nothing to do with it. What's the polar bear one? Because it's probably more creepy looking.
I think the crime boy. I know even though we've talked ourselves out of it, I still think there's a little bit unsettling one with that one.
Yeah,
So we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Ghost Creatures and Scares Oh My. If you would like to stay updated on episode releases, please give us a follow on Instagram. We really appreciate all of the follows that we've had. So I did put a little video out there, which Matty was laughing at. But you know, a lot of people liked it and commented, which I really do appreciate. We've tried to push it a lot more, haven't we? And
yeah,
I'm using the royal we there because
because you've done it.
I've done all of the graft on this one, all the work. But no, people have been messaging back, and you know, sometimes when I get a random message off someone, I'm a bit like, "Who's this?" So the fact that people have actually replied to it, we are relatively normal people, so thanks for that. Really appreciate it. My biggest favour I could ask you is if you have enjoyed it, give us a like and comment on the story. So when I put a post out for each episode, just maybe say what you've enjoyed about it. And again, please don't be scared to critique us. We're really looking for that feedback to help us improve, whether it be the stories we cover or how we cover it. I'm really up for any feedback. And yeah, lastly, please give us a share on your story. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Next time, we'll be revisiting the concept of vampires with some blood-curdling stories. See you soon.